So, to piggyback off of what I was saying earlier, or talking about earlier, I have many times been given or paid the compliment, divine queen, divine feminine, beautiful queen, things like that, right? Which I'm thankful for, and I always say thank you and everything. But I like to remind women, or people in general, what this essentially means, when, or how I take it, or what it actually means to be a divine feminine, to me, when you keep in mind what that actually means, right? I think some of the younger generation might think it means somebody, who they consider to be connected to their divinity, or maybe they consider that they are spiritual in one shape or form or another, and I don't know if any of those things are true or not, but what it means to me, and what I like to express, is what that word actually means is, like I talked about earlier, divine is somebody, is describing, or what they're really saying is God-like, or when someone can see God-like qualities in you, right? So if you are aspiring to be God-like, okay, it's like you're trying to be like God, right? You are trying to display those qualities in your life. That is a good, that's a good goal to have. But basically, if you call yourself a divine feminine, or people call you that or whatnot, or you want to think that, it's good, I know, for me, to ask yourself, can others see the God in you? Or is that how you're waking up by default? Are you looking to bless others in a way that will hopefully bring them closer to God, or where they are able to praise God and thank God for the blessing of you, or what you have done or given to them or done for them, or been there in a way, right? So that they can actually feel like they see God in you. That is a true divine feminine. A true divine feminine is somebody who is aspiring to have God-like qualities, and they are coming from that place, right? They are oriented from that place. Their mind, their default, is always looking to be used by God in as a force for good, as a vessel for good use for others. That is being a true divine feminine. Okay, and if that's how you describe yourself, and that's how you see yourself, or that's how you want to be, then that is really good, because that just means you're trying to be like God, like Jesus, right? That you are trying to have those qualities. And that is a good thing. That is very positive. It's very positive. So if you call yourself a divine feminine, it is not just that you are, quote unquote, spiritual. Okay, because I say quote, because spiritual is different for different people. Meaning, like, somebody can consider themselves to be spiritual, but they don't know what team the spirits are on that they're being spiritual with, right? Like, that's how I was always taught. Everybody is spiritual. There are spirits. God is a spirit. But there are two sides, right? There's the side for God, and then there's a side not for God, for Satan, right? The dark versus the light, evil versus good, right? But if you don't really know what side you are on, or who you're really praying to, or if you don't even know God's name, or you're not really sure, right? Like, you have to think about, what is your motivation? Where are you oriented from? What is your default? What is your goal? And is it good or bad, right? If you are divine, feminine or masculine, like if you consider yourself divine in any way, then it should be for good. People should be able to see the God in you. Whatever you do for them, or however you encourage them, or lift them up, or edify them, or build them up, should make people feel like they're closer to God, thankful to God, or they feel blessed by God because you're in their life. So if, like, for example, if you are aspiring, like to marry, you're looking to get married and you want to marry a divine feminine, right? She should bring you closer to God. And in fact, a wife really should be bringing you closer to God. That's really one of the main purposes of a wife, right? Is to help bring her family closer to God. Because women are naturally tend to be more spiritually minded in general. Okay, my hair is going to be, for the next few weeks, it's going to look like a hot mess. I'm just letting y'all know because I'm growing it out for the winter time. It's going to be poofy. Big hair don't care. Okay, that was a saying in my house and our family. Big hair don't care. And I sleep on this side, so this side is always matted. It's my calic. Travis used to, I always say, Travis was a barber. So we own a barber shop, and he used to always complain about my calic, and my whole family, we all have a calic on this side. And it swirls and gets matted down on this side, so it's, ugh. Anyway, so you guys will have to just deal with this hair. So my point, and I didn't really finish too much because I had to get going and I had to answer a phone call when I was videotaping last. But basically is, it is a compliment when someone calls you divine feminine. I consider that, and have always considered that, not only a compliment, but as a heavy, weighty responsibility when you are a divine feminine, because you should always be orienting yourself by default as a worker of God, and as a person, looking to help those less fortunate than you, or, to be a blessing to others. And that is the goal. Now, there are times in your life where sometimes you're the blessing and sometimes you need the blessing. Sometimes you need the blessing because you yourself are in a less fortunate situation, right? And sometimes you are praying to God for a blessing. And sometimes you are the blessing to somebody else. But because we all don't know, as we go throughout our day, who we're actually bumping into and rubbing elbows with, we don't know, first off, just by looking at somebody, what their motivation is and who they are and what their default is, and if they're truly divine or not, right? But you will know, not by their mouth, but by the works, how they affect people, how they encourage people, the positive things that come out of their mouth, how they are trying to be a blessing or not, right? So when you mute the person's mouth, which, could be good or bad, it's coming out of their mouth. What do they say, blessings or maledictions, or it could be cursings or blessings. You never know. But when you mute that by a person's works, you can tell what side they're on, what side of divinity they're on, and if they're truly a divine, masculine or feminine, right? If they're truly spiritually minded or not, by their works and how they treat others. Specifically, God says specifically how they treat those less fortunate than them, like orphans and widows, right? And how they keep a tight rein on their mouth, on their tongue, and speaking ill of others and whatnot, right? Nobody is perfect, but when you at least are aiming to not, overstate your boundaries or overspeak something that maybe you don't know anything about, you have to wait and allow God to let things play out, right? Like, at least if that's what you're trying to do. That's what that scripture says, right? And so I say that to say that as we are all moving through this world, right? And there are plenty of people like me who are always looking to be a blessing, or who want to be, who are praying to God in that way. Like, I want to be a blessing to somebody today. Please use me in this way. And as God knows the internal prayers and the internal motivations of the heart, right? He will move you to be in touch with one of his other, what do we say, a faithful slave, or one of his other worshipers, or somebody else, right? As he moves you to touch somebody else, we don't know, because he knows what your prayer is. He knows what the other person's prayer is. The other person might be praying for a blessing, and God knows you and how you are able, and what your gifts are, how you are able to be a blessing to somebody else. Or if he decides to use you for a purpose, and even if you don't know what to say or what to do, what does he do in the Bible? We've seen him plenty of times at that moment, give you the gift of whatever it is, the gift of sight, the gift of like with Joseph, when he was able to discern and tell the meaning of dreams, right? Like at any time when God wants to bless you with a little extra holiness, whatever you want to say, so that you have that gift or that blessing or that ability, right? Whether it is to speak, or to whatever that is, right? Whatever it is, if he knows that he can use you in that manner, right? These types of things happen all the time. And so this is why you want to keep a tight rein on your mouth, because we don't know what God knows and we don't see what he sees. And you might be quick to allow your jealousy, rage, or your own insecurities to speak evil or say something negative about somebody based on their looks. Like, oh, she thinks she's all that because her this or that, or her light skin, or her hair, her eye color, her this or that, whatever, right? And you might want to be quick to say something about somebody. Oh, they have tattoos, or oh, they're this, or oh, they're that, right? And just assume XYZ about a person. But the fact of the matter is, if you're truly divine, and if you really are a worker for God, and if you love God, you know what the scriptures say. The scriptures, we know that God is using people. He uses all of us in different ways. And it would be a very haughty thing for us, a very prideful thing for us to think that we could just try to curse somebody and say something negative about somebody based on our own insecurities, or based on the way they look, or you think you might know somebody's motivation when you don't. When you have no idea if somebody was placed literally in the path of somebody else to be a blessing to them, to be a help to them or the family, or that person, right? Based on that person's prayers, based on whatever that person has prayed for, and also Jehovah God knowing what my prayers are, what their prayers are, and that this person wants to be used in a blessing and as a vessel for good for somebody, right? Jehovah will place people in the paths where he knows that they will be a blessing either to each other or whatnot, whatever the case is, when somebody needs a blessing. And because people are praying every single day, we all pray every single day, several times a day, some of us all day long. We stay in prayer. We talk to God all day long. And with that being the case, you don't want to prejudge anybody because of the way that they look. If, they have, weight on them, you think that person is overweight, you think that person is ugly, or you think that person is, whatever, skin color, or whatever. People do it all the time. They prejudge people. They think that they're young, so they couldn't possibly be a blessing, or God couldn't possibly be using them. They couldn't possibly know their scriptures, or that person is too old, or they're elderly. Think about those that are elderly, or those that are have had disabilities and whatnot, that are in nursing homes, and maybe they've had strokes or whatnot, and they can't speak, right? But maybe they do have their mind, but they just can't use their mouth. But they can pray to God in their heart, and they can pray to God all day long, and they can ask God and beg God. I mean, imagine what their prayers are, that they're hoping and praying that they have good nurses, loving nurses and caretakers, and people who are not going to take advantage of them in their time of need, where they can't speak for themselves, right? And imagine how that must make them feel. Or the people, who are deaf, who can't hear, right? They can only go based on what they're seeing and how they're being treated. And they're praying to God privately that we can't hear. Please send me nurse XYZ, or somebody so-and-so who's going to be kind and loving and treat me gentle, treat me with love, right? And so God knows those prayers of all those who are infirmed, or those that are in those nursing homes, or those are in those situations. He's still hearing those prayers. And those prayers need to be answered on a daily basis by whoever is saying to God in their heart that they want to be used by him, that they want to be a blessing to somebody. And so, because a lot of times people take advantage of people in those situations where they can't speak for themselves, or they can't talk, right? Or they can't express themselves, they can't defend themselves, whether they're elderly or young or whatever the case is, right? So God uses those, right? But because we don't know their prayers and we don't know the prayers of those he's using, it is a very prideful thing for you to try to step in the way and block somebody else's blessing, or because you think that so-and-so is unqualified, or so-and-so is not as good, or isn't as pretty, or isn't as thin, or tall, or this, or that, or this, or that, or this, or that, right? That is a very prideful thing, haughty thing, and God doesn't like that. He doesn't like when people try to get in the way and block the blessing of somebody else, or the blessing, or somebody who was supposed to be a blessing or could be a blessing, because somebody wants to just have their own opinion about the person who is being used, that God is sending in to be a blessing to somebody. If you are truly divine, if you call yourself a divine feminine or a divine masculine, what I'm talking about are the things that are unseen. That the Bible talks about, the spiritual things that are unseen, but they're clearly seen. This is what the scriptures say, that are clearly seen by those who are spiritually minded. When you are spiritually minded and your thoughts are on God's thoughts, or you're trying to think on the things that are spiritually, that are about spiritual things in the Bible, right? There are things that you are not necessarily, you can't necessarily see. Jesus Christ was not born with, literally out of the womb, with a crown on his head that said, I am Christ. I am going to be the king of the world, and I'm going to be the Lord. I mean, no, he was born as a baby in the lowest place on earth at that time, which would be considered with the cows in the manger, right? And so he was not born looking the way that everybody would just know that, you know, this was Jesus Christ. So if you are spiritually minded, though, and you got the download from Jehovah God, and you knew who Jesus was, or you were able to see the signs based on where he was born, the time and everything, right? Then you knew that that was Jesus Christ. Then you knew that this was Jesus Christ, you know, because you are meditating on the things that are of spiritual matters, right? So if you're truly divine and you call yourself a divine feminine, then that's, you know, a heavy, weighty responsibility. What that means is, again, that you are trying to execute God-like qualities towards others and to be a blessing towards others, and that others can see the God in you. At least somebody somewhere can see it. You might also irritate the demons in others, some people's demons, right? That happens. But also, somebody somewhere will also feel like you are a blessing, and they can see the God in you. So I had wanted to kind of complete that thought. And anyway, that's it. Bye.